For all those who appreciate the work that we're doing here on Standing for Truth, please hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started.
All right, looks like we are live for the much anticipated debate between David Neff and Bill Morgan. I'm excited. I know the audience is excited, so we're going to get right into it. Tonight we are debating creation versus evolution. What is the better explanation? The old classic debate topic. So actually, before I go over the format, David, thanks for being here. Bill, thanks for being here. Make sure you gentlemen unmute yourselves before speaking. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be back.
Yes, and I will say this. Both of you need no introduction. I think you've both been here numerous times, countless times. David and I alone have an entire playlist of debates that'll keep you busy longer than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that also goes with Bill. Bill, the last time you were with us was your debate with Dr. Ron Garrett, which was a great debate, definitely one of my favorites. So yeah, once again, thanks for being here, guys. And to the audience, make sure you're tagging me with your questions. As always, we're going to have a solid Q&A after the closings, and we'll get to as many questions as possible. Now, the format and structure for today, it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to go over it real quick so nobody's confused. We're going to be starting with Bill, who's going to give a 15-minute presentation, immediately followed up by David, who's going to give a 7-minute rebuttal. Then we're going to have David give his 15-minute opening presentation, and then we're going to have Bill give a 7-minute rebuttal to that opening presentation. Then we're going to jump into the fun part. We're going to do cross-examination, 4 rounds of cross-examination, followed by a short discussion between David and Bill just to kind of wrap up their points from the debate. 5-minute closings, and then of course a Q&A. So, and I want to point out announcement-wise, I know we had a busy week this week with interviews and discussions, guys. So definitely go back and check those out. Next week we got another couple good shows. I just confirmed a couple debates. One that I'm really excited about. We're going to have Matt Slick on here debating Dr. Ron Garrett on atheism, Christianity, and morality. So I'll be setting that event up in the next couple nights. Anyways, enough for me. Before we get into the openings, why don't we give a couple brief intros? We can start with David. Brief introduction, plug in your channel, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm David Neff. Most of you know me already. I was recently accepted to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I will be starting in fall 2021. And I am super excited. I'll be studying biological science at UMBC.
Awesome. Congratulations on that, David. And Bill, the floor is yours for a brief introduction. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you again for having me. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've been one for 37 years, and I was an atheist for about 12 years. And thank you again for having me on here. It's an honor to be here, and thank you, David, for joining me.
Oh, of course, it's my pleasure. I always enjoy debates. I feel like debates and discussions are very important, and I wish more people would be willing to have respectful dialogue with the other side.
Amen. I could not agree more, and that's what I love about the both of you is you are both so willing and open to debate and discussion on these important topics. So that being said, then let's get right into the debate. We're starting with Bill, and you've got 15 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute warning, and then you'll know at that point you can start winding down. So go ahead, Bill. The floor is yours. If you want to share screen, let me know.
I do.
And I will do so.
I would love to share the screen. Okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay, so just make sure, so I didn't see anything pop up just yet, Bill. The 4th button, at least the 4th for me, make sure you click the share screen, and then a separate box will pop up. Make sure you click that, and then the share part should highlight.
Oh, okay.
And then you'll be able to
let's see.
There we go. I see it. So now you've got 13 minutes, Bill.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You start whenever you're ready. There it is.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
good
can you
to
see
go.
that?
Yes.
Can you
Yeah,
see?
looks
Okay,
good.
great.
Looks good.
All right, here we go. Well, once again, thank you. My name is Bill Morgan, and I have a very clever YouTube channel name. It's Bill Morgan. And anyone can be free to call me or email me if you want to ask questions or discuss. I love this topic, and I love people. Happy to talk to people about it. Question for David. David, suppose you were placed in charge of a very important project, and you could hire every single person on the planet, including all the engineers. You've got 8 billion people working on your project. You're funded with unlimited amount of money, $900 trillion. You could utilize every laboratory in the entire world. Now, David, could you and your entire team of 8 billion people design and build a living dog? There are many parts to a dog. So you got to have many departments working on the different parts of the dog. And so I've made different categories, and they're being assigned by the first letter of the last name. Now, since N starts with, or Neff starts with N, that would be nursing. So let's just look into some of the details for the nursing of a dog that you would have to design if you wanted to build a dog. So a good question, is nursing a design? Well, we did some interviews, and this animal said yes, and it does look like one. Now, some people call it milk. It's colostrum that comes out, colostrum. Colostrum is the first milk produced by the mother. It protects the puppies from diseases that the mother has been exposed to and develops antibodies. The mother is giving her immune system and sharing it with the dogs. Amazing chemistry, amazing design, in my opinion. This is an exact quote. Chemically, colostrum is a very complex fluid rich in nutrients, antibodies, and growth factors. We just think it's silly old milk, but it's got a lot of chemistry in it. Colostrum provides numerous microorganisms essential for the pup's digestion. When the dog sucks in the colostrum, it sucks in a community for its digestive system and its gut. My favorite part, too, is it's a mild laxative. It causes the puppies to go to the bathroom because their digestive tract is full of dead red blood cells, and the colostrum has a laxative to clean it up. Amazing. Now, I'm sure not going to get into all these. I can't even pronounce some of them, but these are just some of the chemicals that are in the colostrum. People on YouTube can go back and hit pause if you want, and this is only scratching the surface. David, there's over 50 complex substances that are essential for the survival of that puppy. How many complex substances in colostrum essential to life would convince you that colostrum is the result of design? Is 50 complex chemicals enough? Would 1,000 convince you that's a design? And I ask that with respect. So there they are doing their thing, working real hard. And this one has a thought. Jehovah Jireh, God my provider. I believe the creator, the designer, has provided the needs for all of his creation. So where does milk production start? It starts in the brain. Prolactin is a hormone that's produced by the pituitary gland. It causes birth to occur, and it causes the nipples to grow and milk to be made for the pups. It gets the mother ready for the pups. But this is a good question to ask. How does it know when to start making the prolactin? Timing is everything. How does it know when? Well, I'd like to take you to a little design class. Engineers love design. That's what we do. What we have here is a feedback control system. It might be a big, scary word, but you use them every day. Feedback control systems are always the result of design. We're going to see if the dog has any. But first, let's talk about your home. There's Standing's Truth in Northern Ontario, nice and cold the way he likes it. But how does he heat it up? He'll heat up his house with a well-designed feedback control system. So a person with intellect goes to the thermostat and says, I need 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm in the United States, so I'm not in metric. The sensor of the system senses 55 degrees. The sensor sends information to the controller, which receives the information and says, hey, heater, turn on. The heater receives this information and turns on. After a while, the sensor notices it's 68 degrees, sends a signal to the controller. The controller receives that signal, tells the heater to turn off, and it turns off. That's a feedback control system. Do dogs have feedback control systems? Yes, they have trillions of feedback control systems. People have trillions of feedback control systems. We're not going to talk about all of them. We don't have enough time. But we'll talk about milk production in dogs. It's a feedback control system. So, if puppies are born, we need to make milk, the mother's body says. Puppies are about to be born. Yahoo! A hormone is released. The pituitary gland receives the message and releases the prolactin, which says, hey, alveoli glands, make some milk. So then they make some milk. After a while, the pups are no longer drinking the milk. It dries up, and the sensor sends a signal back to the pituitary gland, says, hey, no more milk. Stop sending the milk-making hormone, and the milk factory closes down. This is a beautiful feedback control system. Another example of a feedback control system is if you're barefoot and you step on your kid's Lego. That's feedback, and you react. Once again, we have trillions of them. Does this sound like design or chance? The pup says, who cares? He couldn't care less. He just wants milk. But in worldview, this is a very, very important question because this goes to the heart of the issue. Is there a designer who made us? And that can change the way we look at life and we live. A fair question to ask, David, is what evolved first? The pituitary gland, the nipples, the prolactin, the milk-making glands? Evolution is a step-by-step process. Systems like a feedback control system cannot get there step by step by step. They have to show up instantly and they have to be functional instantly. God does not make things. God makes systems. The dog is a system. The reproductive system is a system. The pituitary gland is a system. The tissue that makes it is a system. The cells are a system. The molecules are a system. The atoms are a system. Systems can't evolve step by step. They have to be there all at once. For example, what evolved first? Protons or electrons? What part of the cell evolved first? What part of the pituitary gland? I think you get my point. I believe the logical, intellectual choice is that instantly feedback control systems in dogs and humans appeared. So how is the milk produced? Once again, you can hit pause and read this. It is much, much more complex than this, but all kinds of chemical reactions are occurring to create milk. So the purpose of this slide is not to go into detail because of time, but just for you to conceptualize the complexity. To me, that is a design, very complex, beautiful design that we take for granted. Now here's a cool slide. I just found this out a few days ago. Each nipple has a name. So the dog asks the question, is this a great design? Is this a good location for the nipples? The mama dog says, yeah, mom can relax and be comfortable, and the dogs have enough room for each one. See how they're perfectly spaced? Beautiful design. They're on both sides in case there's more pups. The mom can open up some more by laying on her back. So what is the IQ of nature? 0. Creationists believe there is a designer with an IQ of infinity. So if all the geniuses in the world could not design and build a living dog, how could nature with an IQ of 0 design and build the dog? A dog requires a designer with an IQ of infinity, beyond our comprehension. Now, the people watching the debate, you decide. Is milk production in dogs simple or complex? Is it the result of brilliant design or chance? Living things like a dog can't result by a step-by-step slow process. Going back to the chart, even if you could design a nursing system, you need kidneys, intestines, a heart, eyes, etc. People can't do that, David. That requires a God with an IQ of infinity. And don't forget, you have to design a male dog as well. Isn't that beautiful? I love that picture. Quick definition, a design is something that is planned. Chance, something that takes place without planning. Okay, my life story real quick. I was raised going to church every Sunday. When I was 14, my biology teacher put this on the wall and taught that we had ape-like ancestors. I've always loved science. I've always respected my teachers. And I remember clearly believing him 100% because he was my science teacher. So I said, wait a minute, if humans evolved from apes, page 1 of the Bible is way off base and wrong. And as a 14-year-old, I kind of liked the idea too. I said, cool, I don't have to listen to all the rest of the book with all of those rules. But I was sincere. I was an atheist. I really, truly thought creationists were to be pitied because they lacked scientific knowledge that I had, and they were scientifically ignorant. But when I was 26 years old, I got evidence on how they made these ape men. I dug into it, and now I'm a creationist. And I am glad I fell away because I had to establish my own faith. I didn't want to get by with my mom and dad's, so things turned out well. Very important question. What are these? These are cartoon drawings. This is not scientific evidence. In 9th grade, I thought I was staring at scientific evidence there. The drawings are great. The stories are great. The fossil evidence is terrible, and as is the living evidence. The theory of evolution is nothing but stories and drawings. That's a quote by me, Bill Morgan. I've said it many times. Once again, the theory of evolution is nothing but stories and drawings. What are the steps of science? You start with an idea, then you make observations to test your idea, and then you reach a conclusion. Suppose I had the idea that a pen could fly. What's my next step? I drop it 100,000 times. It never flies. My conclusion should be, if I'm open-minded to the evidence, pens don't fly. That is, if I'm open-minded. Idea number 2. Humans are related to apes. It's good to have ideas. It's great. That's how things move. But then we got to test them. So we do some observations. What have we observed? Are humans related to apes? Well, we can observe 8 billion people on Earth. We can observe that they're all making humans. They all came from humans, human grandparents, human great-grandparents. And when they reproduce, they make more and more humans. That's what we observe, billions of times. We can observe 1 million apes. They have ape parents, ape grandparents. So everything we observe, we see 8 billion people, 1 million apes, 0 living ape men. Where is the evidence? I say it never exists. I tell people, trust your eyes. People make people. Serious question. Why do the textbooks only have drawings as evidence for evolution? Why don't they have photographs? Isn't that a good-looking guy right there? What about fossils of ape men? The evolutionists themselves say this. Scientists have been on the trail of the last common ancestor for decades. They still have not found it. But because there is so little agreement on what it should look like, they interpret the fossils differently. Even the evolutionists admit there's no evidence. The theory of evolution is anti-science because it's not founded on evidence. Okay? So once again, the steps: idea, observation, conclusion. My conclusion, apes are not related to humans. There's no evidence for it. People say reptiles are the ancestors to birds. What do we observe? A lot of reptiles, a lot of birds. No transitional forms. He can only make more reptiles, and that's not religion. It's called biochemistry and genetics, okay? Creationists believe apes make apes, people make people, reptiles make reptiles, birds make birds. Once again, I want to emphasize, this is not a religious belief. It's genetics and biochemistry. The faith position is to believe that bacteria is our ancestor. That's blind faith. So, David, do you believe humans are related to apes because your eyes have seen evidence, which is science, or because you've been told that it's true, which is faith? I got to go fast. What else do creationists believe? How did matter and energy originate? This is a key question. Creationists believe matter and energy did not originate from natural means. The first law of thermodynamics teaches matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed. I would like to know how atheists think matter and energy originated. Creationists believe life can only come from life. Question for the evolutionist: how did life originate? The law of biogenesis and the cell theory, there goes my clock, teaches life only comes from life. Evolutionists think humans are related to bacteria. I'll wrap up here real quick. I do not believe those are our relatives. David, do you believe those are your relatives? Is evolution true? Microevolution, yes. Macroevolution, no. Sorry about my time. Microevolution, you can breed dogs. People can get taller. The flu virus can mutate. But dogs make dogs. The virus is still a virus, and people are still people. Microevolution is true. You can breed dogs, but a dog is only going to make a dog. And I believe dogs are the result of design. They need a designer. Dogs make dogs. Matter and energy did not originate from nothing by natural means, and life does not originate from non-life by natural means. Sorry I ran over, but thank you very much.
No problem. No problem. We're not overly strict here. So just a little bit over the 15-minute mark. And David, we're going to give you, of course, the same leniency. The chat is very lively. We got about 60 people right now in the chat, and we just got started. So therefore, before I lose these, I want to thank Doki Doki for the super stickers and a super chat that I hope I already didn't lose up here. Right here. Let's put that on the screen. Doki Doki Bible Club, I appreciate it. Says subscribe to support debate and interviews. Yes, we got a lot planned for 2021. So if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button so you can get notifications. Anyways, enough for me. David, we are going into your 7-minute rebuttal. For the rebuttal rounds, of course, I'll have to be a little bit more strict and keep it right to 7 minutes. The opening, a little bit more flexible. So you let me know when you're ready, David. I'll get Bill's screen off of here, and we're good to go.
All right, I am ready. Thank you so much, Bill Morgan, for that impressive opening statement. A little bit of a note. I listened to a couple of Bill Morgan's debates and already pre-wrote some of my rebuttals. So my rebuttals are kind of more on what you have said in other debates, but I can let's make do with it. He says micro versus macro evolution. I want to challenge Bill Morgan. What would he say is the difference between micro and macro evolution, and what would he accept as evidence for macro evolution? He says systems cannot evolve. This actually is a great testable prediction. This is a hypothesis. Hypothesis: systems cannot evolve. A refutation of this is by showing systems that can evolve and by showing systems that have evolved. And so one of my personal favorite examples of a system that we know evolved and we can see it evolving is HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus. One of my favorite books of all time is called Evolving the Human Effect and Why It Matters by Daniel J. Fairbanks. He writes, quote, the virus had to mutate into a form that could overcome the natural immunity to SIV in humans. Mammals have a gene that encodes a protein called tetherin. This protein has evolved to confer resistance to retroviruses by tethering them to the inside of the cells they infect and preventing the viruses from replicating. For SIV-CPZ to successfully infect a human, it had to overcome the suppressive effect of human tetherin. The SIV-CPZ evolved by acquiring two anti-tetherin genes called NEF and VPU, one from each of the original monkey viruses that used to form the chimpanzee virus. The NEF gene mutated to overcome the chimpanzee tetherin, but the VPU gene remained essentially insert. When the virus jumped to humans, human tetherin was different so that the NEF gene could not overcome human tetherin. Instead, the VPU gene had to mutate to overcome human tetherin, allowing HIV-1 group M to infect humans. A mutation in a second gene called GHE was also required for the chimpanzee virus to jump to humans. So my question to Bill Morgan is this: does this count as a system? And does this count as an irreducibly complex? Because you have to have all these mutations and all these genes working together in order for this virus to infect humans. If this doesn't count as an irreducibly complex system, I don't know what does. So again, my question is, I want Bill Morgan to put a goalpost in the ground and say, okay, what do I have to show him in order to disprove this hypothesis? Another good example is we are watching in a group of lizards right now, actually evolving placentas. We are seeing this happen right before our eyes. It's a new organ. It's a new function that did not exist in its previous ancestry. So the question I have from Bill Morgan is that, is this a system, and is this irreducibly complex, and would this falsify his hypothesis that systems cannot evolve? Next, he has an IQ of design versus nature. My question is, what exactly is an intelligent designer, and what are the mechanisms by which what is the mechanisms by which he designed these things? If there are no mechanisms, it cannot be falsified, and therefore it cannot be science. What I really want to know from Bill Morgan is, how would I falsify the idea of intelligent design? Let's see here. What else did he point out? Oh yeah, basic genetics. Let's tackle his argument that apes make apes, people make people, penguins make penguins, etc. I agree 100%. And humans actually are apes. If you know what the word ape means, you would know that we in fact are apes. And I would love to discuss this more with Bill in the open discussions. This is called the law of monophyly. If a chimpanzee suddenly gave birth to a human, well, that would actually completely falsify and refute evolution. So if you want to refute evolution, show me some things that creationists expect. Creationists want us to find a crocoduck or monstrosities that would actually fly in the face of evolution. This is called the law of monophyly. He seems to agree. Bill Morgan, can you nod your head or give me a thumbs up or thumbs out? Do you accept that speciation happens at all? Would you accept speciation? You're on mute. Bill, you're on mute if you're trying to speak.
Yes, I do.
Excellent. So speciation.
David, actually, I paused the timer there just because I didn't want to, because he was on mute. I wanted you to maintain as many seconds as you have. On your timer, how much do you have, David, if you don't mind me asking?
I lost track of time. How much time do you have?
Okay, I've got roughly,
David.
it looks like 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, perfect. So he Bill Morgan accepts speciation. So the question I have for him is, where does the extent of common ancestry have? Speciation, of course, if speciation is not macroevolution, then again, what is? What would Bill Morgan accept as macroevolution? Let's see here. What else did he say? Trying to go through as much as I can. Which is the result of design. I know he's used this argument before in previous debates, but I want to tackle this as well. Bill Morgan here commits the fallacy of false equivalence, and animated objects like machines cannot reproduce and pass on genetics to offspring. We are all genetically modified organisms. One of the key mechanisms of evolution is descent with modification. Over time, these modifications are slightly improved. It's important to note that although mutations are random, natural selection is not. Each species fills a niche and is part of an environment. The environment acts as a form of a selective pressure. Natural selection then selects the traits that are best suited for that environment. For example, a white coat may be really bad for a rabbit living in the forest because it'll stick out like a sore thumb, but it would be really good for a rabbit that lives in an Arctic environment with lots of snow. So one other system that I know he's brought up in the past is the eye. Charles Darwin famously said that the evolution of the eye is absurd in the highest possible degree. However, he continues, yet reason tells me that if numerous gradations from a perfect and complex eye to one very imperfect and simple, each grade being useful to its possessor, can be shown to exist, if further the eye does vary ever so slightly, and the variations be inherited, which is certainly the case, and if variations or modifications in the organ be ever useful to an animal under changing conditions of life, then the difficulty of believing that a perfect and complex eye...
You got 20 seconds, David, 20 seconds.
Okay, well, I'll go through this in the open discussion since I know we're probably going to do a lot of that. So I'm going to end right here and jump right into my opening speech.
Perfect. Let me restart the timer. And I've already got a couple questions coming in, guys. So thanks so much for tagging me. I'll save as many as I can. And thanks for the super stickers. And here we go, 15 minutes. The floor is yours there, David. I am going to add your slideshow to the stream. You're good to go.
Excellent. Well, once again, thank you, Standing for Truth, and thank you, Bill Morgan. So the topic of tonight's debate is evolution or creation, which is the better explanation. So I'm going to go through the scientific method, and I like what Bill Morgan did at the very end, and I'm going to go through the same process. So the scientific method is to make an observation, ask a question, form hypotheses, make predictions based on that hypothesis, test the prediction, and then reiterate, use the results to make new hypotheses or testable predictions. So what do we observe? We observe biodiversity. Life on Earth is diverse. Over 8.7 billion species of organisms are alive today. So what is our question? What is the best explanation for this biodiversity? Remember, evolution is a theory on the biodiversity of life. It is not a theory on the origins of life, nor is it a theory on the origins of space, time, and matter. So I'm going to make a hypothesis. This biodiversity is the result of evolution, which is defined as genetic change over many generations, ultimately result in the emergence of new and different species from a single ancestral species. As a result, all life on Earth shares a common ancestor. So there are 4 core predictions, and if any one of these predictions can be shown to be false, then evolution would be falsified. Prediction number 1 is organisms will change over time. Number 2, we should observe speciation. Number 3, oldest fossil layers will have microorganisms that get more complex over time, and the Earth must necessarily be old. So what about change over time? Confirmation number 1, yes, it happens all the time. Nobody questions it. Confirmation 2, speciation. Does that happen? Yes, it does. Bill Morgan conceded that point. What about the fossil record and the age of the Earth? So multiple dating methods all agree on an ancient Earth. Uranium series, argon, potassium argon, etc., etc. The oldest layers shows exactly what we would expect to find. We never find a fossil rabbit in the Precambrian. We never find a modern human fossil in the Jurassic. And the oldest rocks on Earth show no evidence of oxygen. We do have evidence, by the way, that life is older than oxygen. More on that, we can discuss that in the opening statements and the back and forth, rather. So far, so good. But what is the evidence that all of life shares a common ancestor? Do humans share a common ancestor with the other great apes? So what do we observe? We observe that humans and the other great apes look similar. In fact, we are apes by definition. So what is my hypothesis going to be? We are apes because we share a common ancestor with the other great apes. Many of the great apes are native to Africa. From this, we will hypothesize that humans are from Africa. So the predictions from this, humans and other great apes will be genetically similar. If humans emerge from Africa, then human MCRA should be in Africa. Africa will have the greatest amount of genetic diversity. Human genetics will nest within African genetics, and the oldest human fossils should be in Africa. And finally, the oldest human fossils should look more ape-like. So genetic similarities, Carl Linnaeus, long before genetics, he lived even before Darwin, noticed that similarities when he was creating his original classification scheme. In fact, he put all of the great apes, such as orangutans, chimpanzees, bonobos, etc., and the genus Homo. And by looking at the genetics, we find that humans, chimps, are 96% similar. What else can we find? We have pseudogenes. Pseudogenes are non-functional segments of DNA that resembles functional genes, and it's highly unlikely that 2 separate species will share the same pseudogene in common unless it is a result of common ancestry. And we can actually use pseudogenes to recreate phylogeny. So here is the BRAF and the BRAFP1 pseudogene, and a phylogeny based upon that. Pseudogenes provide evolutionary evidence for the competitive endogenous RNA hypothesis. To determine the timing of the origins of the BRAFP1, we performed a multiple sequence alignment and maximum likelihood phylogenetic analysis of these pseudogenes, and no other species. So they were discovered in each species of the Catarrhus lineage, the apes and old world monkeys, but no other species, supporting a single origins at the base of the, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, I am sorry, Catahariani. And this could not be found in any other species tested, including rats, supporting species-specific pseudogenes originating events in mouse. And here's another one, GULO. This is an oxygen, it is a gene that creates vitamin C. However, this gene is disabled in all of the dry-nosed primates, including humans. As a result, all of the dry-nosed primates need to incorporate vitamin C in their diet. And despite this loss, this is actually beneficial because our food is already rich in vitamin C, so we do not need it. Next, let's talk about the out of Africa hypothesis. By using the mtDNA map, we can actually show that humans emerged in Africa. The first common ancestor is postulated to have lived in Africa about 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. And we would predict that Africa would have the most genetic diversity because of what is called the founder effect. When you have a population that small population that moves away from the original population, it takes away some of that genetic diversity with it, as we can see in this diagram. Let's just do a quick thought experiment real quick. Let's suppose that humans build a colony on the moon, and then some years go by, the people on the moon then leave to go to Mars. So where would we find the greatest genetic diversity, Earth, the moon, or the Mars? Well, Earth would have the most genetic diversity, followed by the moon, and followed by Mars. And when we do the phylogenetic analysis, we should see that the genetic diversity in that case would be nested within the Earth's genetics. And that's exactly what we find when we do a phylogenetic tree of the African and human genetic diversity. We find that the non-African genetic diversity represents a subset of the African diversity. In other words, when we do a phylogenetic tree, non-African diversity is nested within African diversity, which means that this genetic diversity originated in Africa, as you can see in this phylogenetic diagram. So out of Africa, the oldest fossil, here's a paper from Nature, used thermoluminescence dating, 315,000 plus or minus 34,000 years ago. And Evo 101, the oldest, one of the laws in evolution is that the further you go back in time, the more similar to closely related species become. And so the older fossils should look more alike. And another law is that the young of two closely related species look more similar than the mature. And when we look at the human fossils, the older they get, it is harder to tell if it is a quote-unquote ape or a human. And even creationists themselves cannot figure this out. And here is the status of Homo naledi and various creationist literature. And if you want to know if we have a true transitional fossil, just take it to the creationists. If the creationists themselves are unable to figure out if it is this or that, that is a pretty good idea that it is a transitional form. Answers in Genesis states that it's fully ape. ICR, what's the thing, is imaginary. CMI, probably fully human, and for Academy of Science, fully human. And we can go on. There are many other examples, but that's just one of many. And now I'm going to address the question, so what? Nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. Evolution is very helpful in medicine. Evolution explains why pathogens counteract our attempts to control them. Usually, using evolutionary framework, we can trace back the lineage of novel viruses to understand where they come from, how they evolved, and how to treat them. HIV is a great example, as I already mentioned. And biogeography was also used to be able to trace Ebola and other viruses. And here is the phylogenetic tree of HIV, which I touched on in my rebuttals. So in summary, evolution makes numerous testable predictions that all have come true. If Bill Morgan or any other creationists wish to overturn evolution, then they must incorporate all of the facts that I presented tonight, explain them better than the current theory, make novel testable predictions that all come true, and falsify the current model. With that, I rest my case. How did I do in time?
Actually, you did really, really good. You still had about 5 minutes to spare. So you did a good job, though, because doing the rebuttal round and then going right into the opening, that's a lot of nonstop talking. So you did well. And Bill, we are now moving to your rebuttal round where you get roughly 7 minutes. Bill, you are on mute. So make sure that you unmute yourself. And before you start, Nephilim Free, he is going to be having an after show. So everybody in the chat, everybody watching, make sure you head over there. And David also is having an after show. So there's going to be a couple after shows going on. If you can join them both, then do so. Anyways, Bill, whenever you're ready, 7 minutes.
We'll be partying like it's New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, David, I love your passion. I'm going to just start by saying I saw a lot of drawings. I heard a lot of words, but I didn't see any evidence. Fantastic charts and graphs and tales told, but where is the evidence? So let me, can you see my screen there?
No, I cannot.
I'm sorry about this. If you could stop the clock.
No, I've got it up now, and don't worry, I stopped the clock, so I can see it. Looks good now.
Okay. The title of the debate is Creation versus Evolution. What is the best explanation? And I say it with all respect, if I was an evolutionist, I would be scared to death too to address the design question, the origin of matter, the origin of the universe. Of all the debates I've done, I've seen this, but the title of the debate was not biological evolution, it's creation. And the foundation of creation is the origins. And David's probably seen this. The origin of the universe and origin of life are not to be ignored. We're looking at worldviews here. We're not just talking about biology. Saying that creation, evolution does not address origins of life and matter, it's like saying, hey, let's talk about the baseball game, but I only want to talk about the ninth inning. Creationists, and obviously the reason for that is it's a disaster for people that are atheists to address origin of matter, life, and energy. Oops, I forgot to start my clock. Okay. Creationists love the science of the origin of matter, energy, and life. First law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, the law of biogenesis, the cell theory, all support creation. Okay. David talked about macro versus micro evolution. What would convince me? Well, what would convince me, David, is explain to me how a leg became a wing. How does a scale become a feather? Tremendous differences between scales and feathers. If reptiles became feathers, there should be an explanation and there should be living evidence. Speaking of evidence, David, do you confess there's 8 billion humans, 100 million apes, but no living evidence of transitional forms? Okay, I've seen the drawings, I've heard the stories. Reptile bones and bird bones are different. What is the difference? Reptiles have solid bones, birds have hollow bones. That would be compelling evidence of macro evolution, not just a variation among the reptiles or the birds. You've got to go up the hill of reptile to a bird. This guy, I once asked him, Carl Zimmer, he writes on evolution, how did solid bones become hollow? He said, well, they had to become hollow so they could fly. But I asked him how. Once again, he said they had to fly. He never responded to that. The metabolism is different. Lizards have a very slow metabolism. Birds have the highest. There's a good evidence of macroevolution. Cold-blooded had to become warm-blooded. Okay? The worst vision on the planet has to become the best vision, and the hind feet had to become perching feet. That would be compelling evidence for me of the difference between micro and macroevolution. You talked at length about the HIV virus, and you can probably predict what I'm going to say. It's all microevolution. It's still a virus. And you asked about, does it count as a system? Yes, you started with a system of a virus, an incredibly complex system that got mutated, and it still remained a virus. You talked about monopoly, which my understanding has to do with cladistics, where people draw a circle around animals and say that they're related. Well, of course, creationists believe some animals are related, but I do not believe that a hummingbird is related to a blue whale. So there's limits to that. Any assumption that you have is anti-science because it's not based on observation. Okay. Now, and I love what you said about how do you know about God? How do you know his nature and all these other things about how he created? Well, you've probably seen my stones example. Imagine you've got 15 stones on a driveway. You walk up there and I say, David, do you think that's the result of design or chance? You most likely would say it looks like chance because they're so spread out. The next day on your driveway, we see 6 stones in a straight line. Hey, David, you think that's a design? You'd probably say, I'm pretty sure, but you can't be 100% sure because you're not there. You could be 99% sure, but 1% faith because you weren't there. We come home the next day. You had 150 stones in a circle. Design or chance? You could say design, but you can't be 100% sure because you weren't there. You could be 99.999%, but you still got a little bit of faith. So as we bring God into the question, David, what's more complex? 150 stones in a circle or the human eye? Nobody would argue 150 stones could possibly happen by chance, but a lot of people would say that the human eye did. I would say that's because of emotions, not their logic or reasoning. The eye is infinitely more complex than the stones. So I think something is driving them. I think the idea is leading to the conclusion that the data is not leading to the conclusion. Speciation. So you've got 1,000 snails. Man builds a freeway between them. They no longer can reproduce. People would say, hey, that's speciation. They're not interbreeding anymore. And of course, the creationists would say, absolutely, but they're still snails. There's no new genetic information involved. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. The three-legged stool of evolutionism. Evolution relies on time, mutation, and natural selection to go from bacteria to a whale. They're all enemies of increased information. Time, a closed system without the proper energy input and information, degrades a system. Time is not the friend of the theory of evolution. Mutations are not. Mutations are a loss of genetic information. You scramble your DNA, you make fewer proteins than before. It's a mutant. Mutations do not create, they eliminate proteins. Natural selection. We take 500 dogs to Alaska.
Yeah, 20 seconds, Bill. 20 seconds.
After one winter, the hairless dogs are dead. Their genetic information is gone from the population. The hairy dogs already had that genetic information. They survive. So natural selection loses information, mutations lose information, time loses information. Believing in this as the mechanism is like saying, if you give me $100 a day, you're going to become rich. No, you're going to be poor when you lose. But okay, sorry, I ran over.
That's okay. That's okay. Just on time. Good job to the both of you on your openings and your rebuttals. We've got some super chats coming in. I'm going to get to a couple of the ones that are just comments and not really questions. Oh, yeah. We got a lively chat tonight, so thank you so much. Ian Chen says, sorry, can't stay SFT, but I have to slap and run. That's a good insider between Ian and I. Thank you so much. Doki Doki, $2 super chat. I appreciate it. I could make a dog from box of Legos, Bill. So
does it lactate milk though, Doki Doki?
And we had another one. I've got a couple here that are just questions, so I'm saving those guys for the Q&A. Another one from Ian Chen. I appreciate it. Says because it's SFT and David and a little Bill. So he's a fan of all of us. Very sweet of you, Ian.
And slap it.
Okay, well, thank you. And that gives you guys a bit of a break there because now we are going into the cross-examination rounds where we will start with, I believe, since Bill opened, it'll be you cross-examining David for the first round. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we've got 5 minutes. Whenever you're ready, I will start the timer and you can begin asking your questions.
Okay, I couldn't get a noisier timer. Okay, David, everything I ask is with respect and dignity. And
I appreciate that. And I do want to appreciate you have been very cordial so far. And I really want to appreciate you coming on and discuss this with me.
And in a manly way, I love you.
Well, thank you. You also.
We need more love in this world.
And I love both of you.
Yeah, we need more love in this world. Okay, ready, SFT? Can you start now? But I just want to establish our friendship. Okay, David, why are you an atheist?
I am an atheist because, number one, when I look at the Bible, I find that the evidence for the Bible is very lacking. My journey into atheism started with, I guess, questioning the Bible and examining some of the sources for it, and examining some of the messianic prophecies that Jesus allegedly fulfilled, and seeing some of the false prophecies in the Bible. For example, Jesus prophesied that he would come back within the lifetime of his followers, and that obviously did not happen. Many other things in the Old Testament that was supposedly prophesying of Jesus, such as the virgin birth, is based upon a mistranslation of the Hebrew word Alma. A lot of misquotes from the Old Testament in the New Testament that I don't have really a whole lot of time to go through. But those were some of the key things that brought me into atheism.
Now, the Bible, and I don't believe it is, the Bible could be hooey, but that doesn't falsify that the dog is the result of design. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, I understand that falsifying Christianity does not prove atheism, and I understand that it doesn't falsify intelligent design. But for me, it seemed more likely to me that all religions were false than any one of them were true.
Okay, so nothing emotional or traumatic caused you to reject the Bible? Because you said you were raised as a Christian and your dad was a pastor. I don't want to give up, your dad was a pastor. Okay. All right. Well, science question. Do you believe that life arose from non-life for science reasons or emotional reasons?
I would accept abiogenesis. Now, I will be the very first person to admit that we are nowhere near close to understanding the exact origins of life. There are many different competing hypotheses for abiogenesis and different models for it. And I think the research questions on the origins of life are very important because it helps us distinguish between viable models of abiogenesis versus non-viable models of abiogenesis. And some of the things that we have been able to determine in the lab is recreating nucleotide, complete RNA nucleotide bases. I personally favor the RNA world hypothesis. We have found very complex chemistry, very complex amino acids in asteroids. So if you know anything about biochemistry, it's not that hard. It's not that hard of a pill to swallow, at least for abiogenesis.
On a scale of 1 to 99, nobody can be 0 or 100. How sure are you that life arose by non-life through natural processes?
I would put myself probably at 99%.
And why? You said there's many different hypotheses. They all falsify each other. Why are you at 99? Everything we observe is life only comes from life.
Well, again, this is a classic God of the gaps argument. Just because we do not know doesn't mean we can jump straight to God. And I can think of a lot of evidence that would completely falsify evolution and confirm the Bible, but we simply don't see it.
Okay, but you're not really sticking to my question. I never said you could know. I don't know. I have not seen life created, but you're at 99%. What has compelled you to be 99%? Is it emotion or science?
Well, again, this is science that we do have a very good understanding of the biochemistry of life, and we have observed RNA nucleotide bases in the lab and a lot of other great experiments. I admit that we are nowhere near the 100% answer, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with saying I do not know the exact process by which life originated.
Right, and again, I didn't ask you for the exact, but you did say 99%. Suppose a laboratory could assemble RNA, DNA, proteins, ribosomes, ribs, organs, and made a dead dog. That's still not life. That's just chemistry, physics, and biology. Oh, that was my time.
Okay, sure. So I asked you if HIV was a system, correct? You would agree that, well, actually, let's back up. I asked you
Oh, wait, is this the rebuttal? Is this my cross-examination?
I'm sorry. I thought it was 5 minutes for you, and then I get 5 minutes, and then you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've still got 10 seconds on the clock for that one. I think because we paused it a bit earlier for the when you guys were chatting. So we'll now move to David. You'll be asking.
Can I just say one thing in those 10 seconds, SFT? Real quick, 10 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
a dead dog is still not living. A dead dog can have the RNA, proteins, ribosomes, organs, etc. There's more to life than just the chemistry. And the atheists are excited about making an amino acid in the lab. I'll give you a whole dead dog, bring it to life. If there's more to life than biology, chemistry, and physics. Okay, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So I asked you what would convince you of macroevolution? Well, I'm going to start with why isn't speciation macroevolution?
Because in my example, you started with snails and you ended with snails. It's not often just the biochemistry that they won't interbreed. It's often the morphology, the way they look, act, and smell. I don't know if you saw one of my favorite slides where I would say a supermodel is a different species than me because she would never interbreed with me unless I had Standing for Truth's bankroll. The thing is just because sometimes they won't interbreed, it's not just biological. I have heard that in vitro, a cat, a house cat, and a tiger could produce a viable offspring, but they would never match in the wild because of the physical differences and the morphology. So to me, there's still snails in my example. It's still a flu virus. There's still an HIV virus.
But that's what evolution says. That's called the law of monophily. But going through, I asked you what would convince you of macroevolution. You talked about like scales to feathers.
Yes.
I actually have several papers actually on scales to feathers. I think it's been pretty well understood that the origins of feathers, lots of really fascinating papers. Only multiple regulatory modules are required for scale to feathers evolution. We identified feathers associated genes using genomics and analyses. The candidate genes were tested by expressing them in chickens and alligator scales forming regions. Ectopic expressions of these genes included, induced intermediate morphotypes between scales and feathers, which revealed several major morphogenic events along the path. Localized growth zone formation, follicide, and vegetations. And so this stuff has been demonstrated already in the lab. I can put the paper, here's the link in the Cyborg chat, private chat. You can take a look at the paper. Would that be good enough? Is that good enough?
You can send me a paper, and I'm not going to dismiss that, but you agree there's hundreds of billions of reptiles, hundreds of billions of birds, but no living intermediates. That would bother me if I was an evolutionist.
Well, actually, there are plenty of intermediates. One of the most important being Archaeopteryx. And what is fascinating about Archaeopteryx is that it was predicted in the time of Darwin, if they actually did evolve from reptiles and dinosaurs, that we should have a bird with unfused wings, and that is what Archaeopteryx is. There is a lot of hold on, let me pull some things up real quick.
But Archaeopteryx is extinct, as you would admit, right?
Oh, of course, but that doesn't matter. We have the fossil evidence.
And it's very similar to a roadrunner that's alive today.
Yeah, okay.
And they don't fly. They have wings.
Okay, so what?
Well, the Archaeopteryx is a fossil, I believe, of a bird, and similar to a roadrunner. It's got feathers, wings, perching feet, and it's got the differences that tooth, claws on its wings, just like an ostrich. But there should be hundreds of millions of living organisms, David, if the reptile is related to the bird. And people look at an Archaeopteryx fossil and hang their head on that. To me, that's emotion. That's not data-driven.
Okay, so let's see here. Trying to think what else. So back to the systems. You said HIV is a system, correct?
The virus is a system, absolutely.
And we know how this new virus, the novel virus, the HIV, evolved. We have the multiple organisms. Would you agree that that is irreducibly complex with the different genes that are necessary to turn SIV into HIV?
SIV?
Yes, SIV is the chimpanzee, the virus, chimpanzee immunodeficiency virus in that section. It jumps hosts from the chimpanzee bonobos to humans sometime around 1900s and became HIV. So would that count as a system?
Well, I don't want to disappoint you with my lack of intellect, but I don't know anything about SIV, but I would propose that what they had in the 1900s was a virus.
Correct.
What they have today is a virus, and
But
it
it's
can
not.
undergo multiple changes.
But it's
I
not
don't know
the
if
same.
that's answering your question.
But it's not the same kind of virus. It's not the same kind. It's a brand new virus with brand new functions and brand new genes.
It's a virus to me. I mean,
What else would it be?
you
Like
can
if a
breed a
virus,
Chihuahua. Does a Chihuahua prove that dogs are related to bacteria? It's a
well,
new
not
type of breed.
not by itself, but like, trying to think.
I'm just going to jump in if you want to make this the last comment or question.
Yeah, I'll make this one last comment.
Yeah, of course.
But
Go
again,
ahead.
if a virus suddenly became a human, again, that would falsify evolution. That would not confirm it in any way, shape, or form. So, again, I kind of want you to give me a goalpost. What do I have to show? I guess one last question in this round. There is a group of lizards that are actually evolving placentas. Is that a new system? Does that count as macroevolution for you?
Again, don't want to disappoint you. I've never heard of that. I would love to read up on it. I would love to read both sides on it.
Okay, but would you agree that if that is true, then would that count as macroevolution?
Wow. It would blow my mind. And I'll be the first to admit that. And like I said, I don't want to comment on things I don't know the first thing about. What's the name of this lizard? I'll write it down.
I'm sure. I'll actually share my screen real quick and show it to you. And I'll put this in the private chat as well, and I can link both this and the paper.
How much do you know about it, David? Do you know a lot about this lizard?
I just know a little bit about it from reading. Don't know a whole lot, but I can share this real quick.
I just did a Bible study on placentas.
Okay.
I don't know anything about liver placentas.
Okay, so evolution in action, lizards moving from eggs to live birth. Crap. Okay. New tactic. Be right back.
You didn't pay your $3.
Yeah. I hate these paywalls.
But you're saying the lizards in the past gave birth without a placenta,
and they are now evolving.
And now they are now.
Yeah, and there we go. I'm going to use outline real quick if I could share my screen. Evolution has been called in the act, according to scientists who are decoding how a species of Australian lizards is abandoning egg laying in favor of live birth. New South Wales map, the bellied three-toed skin sails eggs to reproduce, but individuals of the same species living in the state's higher, colder mountains are almost all giving birth to live young. Only two of the other modern reptiles use both types of reproduction. And evolutionary records here show that nearly 100 reptile lineages have independently made the transition from egg laying to live birth in the past. Eggs to baby switches creates nutrient problems. One of the mysteries of how reptiles switch from eggs to live babies is how the young get their nourishment from birth. So in mammals, a highly specified placenta connects the fetus to the uterus, etc. So in leg alien species, the embryo gets nourishment from the yolk. So here we have, now we can see that the uterus secretes calcium that becomes incorporated into the embryo. It's basically the early stages of the evolution of a placenta in reptiles. So again, this is an example of convergent evolution and a brand new system and a brand new organ. So again, does that count as macroevolution?
Well, I would have to learn a lot more. And instead of giving you a wild answer, trying to impress you how smart I am, I don't know about that. But they knew about these lizards in the past, and they were giving live birth. I mean, they were giving birth as eggs. Now they're studying the same animals, and they're giving birth, live birth, umbilical cord. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it's in the early stages of development, but it gives
us
a very.
Could you explain that? Early stages of development.
Basically, the early stages of evolving. There are some reptile species, from my understanding, that are going. That do both eggs and live birth. They do both systems of reproduction. And this gives us a glimpse of what most likely happened in the past and how organisms changed from eggs to completely live birth. So again, this is good evidence, I think, because we are watching it here and now. We don't have to extrapolate backwards and put puzzle pieces together. It can be observed right now.
Well, I will gladly research that. One of my strengths that I'm very, very proud of is my humility. I've never heard of that. That's a joke. I'm proud of my humility.
Now, did
But anyways,
Now,
Okay,
did
so
you guys want me to? I wasn't sure if that would be the start of a new 5 minutes from Bill, or did you want me to now start Bill's cross-examination
yeah,
to
you can
David?
go back and cross-examine me.
all right.
All right, 5 minutes. Go ahead, gentlemen.
All right, David, do you believe that matter and energy originated from nothing by natural processes? And if so, is that an emotional or a scientific belief on your part?
Sure. So you're talking about the origins of like atoms and stuff like that?
Yes.
All right, sure. So we understand the Big Bang Theory quite well. So in the distant past, the universe was hot and dense, and there's a lot of evidence for this in the cosmic microwave background radiation and all of that. And shortly after, neutrons and protons formed, and so did protons. And what we do know is that in stars, stars fuse atoms together and create new elements. All the heavy elements up to iron is created in stars, and the heavier all the other heavier elements are created in supernovae. And we know that because we can observe that through what is it called?
Well, you're not answering my question to cut you off rudely.
Okay.
How did the matter and energy originate? I don't want to hear the Big Bang story.
Okay. Well, what would you accept? What would you accept?
Your answer. What's your answer?
Well,
How
I
do
want
you
to know.
think? How do you think? I didn't say how do you know. How do you think matter and energy originated?
Again, matter, the
Not
atomic
expanded, originated.
originated through the Big Bang.
No,
We don't know. Now,
David, that's after the origin.
okay. We
And
don't
if
know.
you don't
But
know,
again,
I won't grill you on it. But
okay.
do you want
But
to?
again, cosmology is not my field. Obviously, I'm more into the biological science. That's what I'm going into. But again, even to the biology side, there's plenty of. I think you should have a discussion with my friend Leo Felius. He's actually really big into cosmology. He knows a lot about that stuff. So I would you be interested in setting up a debate with me with you and with you and Leo Felius? Because he's
Yeah,
never been to that.
I'm losing my 5 minutes here. Sure. But in the Sound of Music, there's a song. I know you like music. Nothing comes from nothing, right? Remember that? You ever seen Sound of Music? And that's very good physics. The first law of thermodynamics teaches matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed. I truly think if you were seeking truth, you would reject that matter and energy came from nothing. And I do believe that if you believe it did, that's an emotionally driven response. But my goal is not to, feet to the fire, etc. What do you think will happen to you after you die, David?
Well, I will die, and my consciousness will go away and never wake up. So, yeah.
Okay. I ask with respect again, what is the meaning of life? Is there any meaning?
So there's no objective meaning of life. It's pretty much whatever. So again, what do you mean by meaning of life? Like for me, my quote unquote meaning and purpose would be through music and science and all of that. But again,
So life has no meaning, right?
what define meaning?
Well, purpose, the law of causality says for every effect, there has to be a cause. There is a cause for your piano. There is a cause for your piano bench. There's a cause for your carpet. Is there a cause for you?
Okay.
Is there?
Well, yeah. My parents coming together and all that. But what do you mean by a cause?
A purpose.
Okay, a purpose.
I'm not playing
again,
word games.
okay, but again, I don't believe there is an objective purpose in life.
Okay. But you used to, and you used to be a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not just an emotional theology. It's a law of causality. For every effect, there is a cause. And I believe every designer cares about his design. I think it's clear that your vision, your hearing, your skeletal system is a design, and that there's a designer, and that there is purpose and meaning to life. And I say this with respect. I've talked to a lot of atheists. I truly believe they're emotion driven after they've heard the heard the facts. A lot of people just believe it because they were taught it. But I think you know biology and chemistry and physics too well to think even an atom happened by chance, much less a universe. But I do respect you no matter what. We could be best friends and disagree. But you know what I mean? We're just two guys who disagree.
Yep.
Go ahead, David. I'd like to hear what you're saying.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, this is an important question. What would you say, and I meet a lot of them, what would you say to a depressed teenager who tells you, David, my parents are awful. I'm living on my friend's couch. I have no friends. Life is meaningless. I can't put up with the pain. What would you tell them?
Go see a therapist. Go see a psychiatrist, because I'm not a psychiatrist, nor am I a therapist. I'm not a professional, and I would not want to counsel them because I'm not a professional on that topic.
Okay.
If you wanted to, it's been 5 minutes. I don't want to cut you guys off. If you want to make a couple last points there, Bill or David, before we move to David's cross exam.
I meet hundreds of kids that have no meaning, no purpose, no hope. They just feel they're going to warm up the planet and that there's no meaning to life. And there really is a lot of pain out there. And so many young people don't know how to deal with their pain. And the way to deal with pain is to know that, and I say this to you, David, you are loved. You are important. There is a creator who made you for a purpose. And that's the most important part of this debate. There is a purpose for this dog. There is a purpose for you. And these teens just like to know that they're not biological junk ruining the planet, that there's a purpose for them, and that they're a special creation from a loving God.
Okay, so what is the purpose of a puppy dog, I guess?
I believe God got joy through his creation, and he liked to spread the joy. And my dog gives me joy.
Okay, so what is the purpose of a gamma ray burst?
I would have no idea.
Okay,
I'll have to ask your buddy Leo Filius or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Or what would be the purpose, so to speak, of a black hole?
Wow.
So
let's keep learning more.
Okay, good.
There's a purpose for you, David. I don't know about the black hole, but I know there is one for you. And I say that as a friend, not to make you feel guilty or rotten.
Okay, sure. So I kind of want to talk about my arguments on the out of Africa hypothesis and stuff like that. How would you account for like the genetic diversity in Africa? Would you agree that there's good evidence that humans originated in Africa, whether it be through evolution or by God's design?
When you say genetic diversity, and I'm not playing dumb, what do you mean?
I mean exactly that.
So people in Africa now are different than people in China or Russia, are you saying?
So you know what genetic diversity means?
Well, probably different arrangement of genes or different types of genes.
Yeah, exactly. It is the total number of, I'm just reading from Wikipedia here, the total number of genetic characteristics in the genetic makeup of a species. And we find the greatest amount of that in Africa. And through the founder effects, by understanding that, we can understand that humans must have originated in Africa. And when we do the phylogenetic analysis, we show that humans are that the non-African lineages are a subset of the African lineages.
Well, I do know, and you know what mitochondrial Eve is, correct?
Yes, and that
I do believe we're all related to each other, and I do understand what the founder effect is. And I would say the people in Africa are as human as you, me, and the Chinese and the Russians, etc. But again, they're all still what? They're all still people.
Okay. Trying to think.
And do you believe in mitochondrial Eve? Oh, it's your turn. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So mitochondrial Eve, yes. So mitochondrial Eve has been dated through the molecular clock to about 300,000 years ago, so give or take. How do you account for that in the young Earth timeline?
I've actually, years ago, I've read up on the molecular clock. It's all based upon assumptions of mutation rates, as I understand. And you change that variable, you can get any date you want.
Okay,
But we do know that civilizations only go back 5,000 years. You could Google history of civilizations, they're all 5,000 years. And that's empirical. It's not theoretical.
All right, I'll let you ask that to me in the cross-examination. Why don't we? So,
Sure.
trying to think of what I was going to say next. So, again, trying to think. I know I had a question, but I'm having a brain fart.
Take a deep breath. Maybe my dog will help you.
Yeah, holding up. He's such a cutie. He's such a cutie. So yeah. How did the designer actually do his designs?
How did the stones on your driveway get into a circle? All we can do is hypothesize. Well, it's actually my conclusion, but I do believe in instant creation, which
Okay.
blows my mind. But I believe the human body was instantly created with a muscular, skeletal, digestive, nervous, immune system because they all rely on each other like a system. So
Okay.
we really are debating which miracle makes more sense, because would you agree we both believe in a miracle?
No.
Okay. Well, you haven't explained yours, and if you can't explain it, it's beyond science. But I believe in the miracle of the eye, the optic nerve, the visual cortex instantly being designed. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You believe time, nature, and chance pushed chemicals around and made the eye, the optic nerve, and the visual cortex, which to me is a bigger miracle.
Well, that of course ignores many of the mechanisms for evolution. But real quick, let's. I was actually doing some research on the evolution of the eye for this debate because I had a feeling you were going to bring this up, and since pull this up. Darwin's greatest challenge tackle the mystery of the eye. So when so actually, researchers in the laboratories have discovered that light-sensitive cells in our eyes and the rods of the cones are of unexpected evolutionary origins. They come from an ancient population of light-sensitive cells that were initially located in the brain. It is not surprising that the cells of human eyes come from the brain. We still have light-sensitive cells in our brain, which detect light and influence our daily rhythm of activities, but possibly the human eye has originated from light-sensitive cells in the brain. Only later in evolution would such brain cells have relocated into the eye and gained the potential to confer vision. The scientists discovered that the two types of light-sensitive cells existed in our early animal ancestors. In most animals, these cells became part of the eyes and remained embedded in the brain. But the evolution of the human eye is peculiar. It is the ciliar, I cannot pronounce the word, I'm sorry. I am really bad with pronunciation for my dyslexia and all that, but I digress. That were recruited for vision, which eventually gave rise to the rods and cones of the retina. So how did the researchers finally trace the origins of the eye? By studying a living fossil, a marine worm that still resembles early ancestors that lived up to 600 million years ago. They had sent pictures of this worm's brain, and so when I saw these pictures, I noticed that the shapes of the cells in the worm's brain resembled the rods and cones of the human eye. I was immediately intrigued by the idea that both of these light-sensitive cells may have the same evolutionary origins. So now we made an observation and a prediction. So to test this hypothesis, they used a new tool for evolutionary biologists, namely molecular fingerprints. Such a fingerprint is a unique combination of molecules that is found in a specific cell. He explains that if cells between species have matching molecular fingerprints, then the cells are very likely to share a common ancestor. So the scientists provided crucial evidence to support the hypothesis with the help of the EMBL research. She determined actually that the molecular fingerprint of the cells in the worm's brain, she found an opsin, a light-sensitive molecule in the worm that resembles the opsin in vertebrate rods and cones. And so when I saw this vertebrate type molecular active in the cells of the brain, it was clear that these cells in the vertebrate rods and cones share a molecular fingerprint. This was concrete evidence of common evolutionary origins. And this, of course, confirms what I'm sorry?
I was just gonna say that the 5 minutes is well past, and
Okay.
therefore my
And then-
recommendation, if you had one, it's up to you. Maybe one, I guess, finish your point, and if you want, you can end it with a question to Bill, and then we can jump into maybe 10 minutes of free-flowing dialogue as I gather the rest of the questions and go from there, if that works for you, gentlemen.
Yep.
Who's got the ball? I do. Could you please repeat your question? I'm just kidding. That was a joke. All right. Humor is very, very important. Well, I do believe that's a beautiful story. I believe the worm eye is perfect for what the worm needs. The most complex eye in the fossil record is in the trilobite, which is in the allegedly oldest fossils. Allegedly, one of the first multicellular fossil has the most complex eye. And if I were an evolutionist, that would be a big problem for me. So I believe each eye is designed for the organism it needs. There's no evidence that one mutated its way into another. But I still respect you, David. Okay?
Okay. Sure.
We're not fighting.
Okay. So let me pull up my notes real quick. So basic genetics, yeah. So you understand how phylogenetics and cladistic work, correct?
To a fair extent, more than my neighbor, but I'm sure no expert. But is the 5 minutes up, SFT? What?
Yes, yes. So the 5 minutes would be up. And therefore, if you guys would like, that would conclude the 2 rounds of cross-examination. You guys can now move into a free-flowing dialogue for a few minutes if you'd like. Maybe 10, 15 minutes while I gather all the questions, and then we can move on from there.
Or do you want to do the closing now?
I think we should go on and do some more. We've only been doing, do you want to do maybe 10 more minutes of open discussion before we do closing? Because I've been really enjoying this discussion.
Okay. All right.
Let's see here.
Could I ask you one?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
You believe you have a soul?
What's a soul?
Okay, I wish I could see you. Can I see you to make my point?
Sure.
And if not, it's okay. Okay.
All right,
and
so
I'm not
what is the
setting you
soul?
up. I'm not a magician. All right. Why did you cover that? Why did you cover that handsome face up? Oh, David, could you just raise your hand and show me 3 fingers?
Okay.
You know where this is going. You're a smart guy. Why did you do that?
Because you told me to.
Were you forced to do it?
No. I gotta say.
So you chose to do it. What's the origin of a choice in a human?
I'm not sure.
What's your best guess?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But once again, I'm asking you to guess. I'm not asking if you know for sure, because this is important. In engineering, I had a boss who said, Bill, never tell me you think something will work. You either know or you don't know. But what's your best guess on why you showed me 3 fingers? And again, this, it's a friendly debate, an exchange of ideas. Could you not raise your 3 fingers?
Well, sure. So.
And what was the genesis to cause you to raise them? What caused it?
Well, you asked me to, and I decided to go along with it. I mean,
okay.
I could have done any 3 fingers I wanted.
Exactly. Is that a gang sign? Are you in a gang?
Nah, I just
okay. but you chose to raise the 3 fingers. But where do your choices come from? You can love someone, you can hate someone, you can wear a t-shirt, you can wear a tie. What's the origin of a choice, David? It's a sincere question.
Okay, and again, I would not know the exact origins of a choice, but I would wager a guess that all animals have choice, not just humans.
I agree. I think plants do too. They can face the sun. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure they have a choice. Because I'm not a plant person or whatever. I wouldn't know. Maybe they're just doing it chemically or whatever, forced to do it from their biology. But again, maybe they have a choice, maybe they don't. I'm not a plant person. But
okay, sorry to cut you off. I care about you. I don't care about the chrysanthemum or whatever it is.
Okay.
What's your best guess on why you decided to raise 3 fingers?
Again, because you told me to.
Could you give me all your money?
What
You're
money?
gonna say no to that.
What money?
I don't want your money. But let's just discuss as 2 buddies trying to find big answers to big things. What do you think is the origin of you choosing to raise 3 fingers when I asked you to? besides you're polite, but you didn't have to. What is the origin of that? Where does that come from?
Well, again, because I decided to do so. I mean, I don't understand what you're saying. What would you say is the origins? Let's hear your viewpoint. What is the
Okay.
origin of that?
I say a living person is like a computer. You
Okay.
need hardware, you need software, and you need power. You take the power away from a computer, you got a bunch of chemicals. I believe a human has hardware, software, and power. When a dog dies, it will not shake your hand. It will not bark at the door, because I believe, and we could get off on semantics, I believe this, when the soul leaves an animal, it's dead.
Okay.
I believe, David, you have a soul, you have a body, and you have a spirit, and your soul decided, yeah, I'll raise three fingers to Bill. He's not a bad guy. But you could have chosen not to. When you die, your soul leaves the body, and that's the most important part of existence. Another question, just scientifically, is what is the difference between a dead dog and a living dog?
A dead dog is dead and does not do any ceases the chemical functions necessary to sustain life.
Why is it dead, though?
Because it's not doing any chemical reactions.
Okay, so if we could jumpstart that chemistry, it could become living again, right?
Yeah, and we actually have done that before in humans. Cardiac arrhythmisms with brain death have been able to be revived through medicine.
Have they revived anyone who's been dead 4 years?
Well, of course not.
And preserved.
Because by that time, it's probably too late. But I'm sure if it perfectly preserved, then maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you get my point. I would say that the soul has not left that person left. They could be clinically dead. But you get my point. A dead dog is a lot different than a living dog. And science struggles with why. They can analyze.
So let me ask you a question on that. At what point does the soul leave the body, and how do you know?
It's funny you asked about no. To me, I can't know. I'm a human. I could perhaps measure brain waves, heartbeat, etc., but I can't put an instrument and measure whether the soul is there or not. But if my beloved pit bull is laying there stone cold for a week, I can pretty much assume its breath of life has left the body.
Okay. And what exactly is this breath of life?
I believe that life comes from God. The God that I believe in is so big. Do you have a dog, David?
What was that?
Do you have a dog?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, if you did, I love to tell people God has designed every single hair on every single dog. I challenge people to say, I would say every hair on your dog is perfect.
Okay.
The hair on the back of is the hair on the back of a dog the same as the hair in the middle of its paw?
No.
No, it's a little bit different. And the hair on its head is a little bit different than the hair on its arm. The hairs are all different shapes, sizes, directions, thicknesses, lengths. I believe God is so big that he has written DNA to create every single hair on every single mammal on this planet.
So, if I could read.
So God also, I believe, gives the breath of life to all life. Go ahead.
Okay, so where exactly is the soul, and how will we falsify the existence of the soul?
Falsify the existence of the soul. Well, you know as well as I can't pinpoint in it, but I believe it is in humans that can leave us. Falsify the existence. I think if you gave me all your money, that would falsify the existence of the soul.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any money to give, unfortunately.
Really? Okay. Well, okay. I don't know. That's a good philosophy question. But I believe that if you don't respond to stimuli, like raising your three fingers, I mean, you could be paralyzed, of course, that you don't have the soul. As you know in biology better than me, there's voluntary and involuntary muscle action, correct?
Right. So, if I could ask you then, is a person in a coma, is their soul in their body?
Yes.
And how do you know? And how do you know? Like, if the soul is what is causing the person to raise their fingers and all of that, if that soul is immaterial, then how is it that medicine can cause this soul or whatever to stop functioning? This immaterial soul.
Well, I'm not saying their soul stops functioning. I say as long as they're alive, they still have their soul. They're still having cell division. They're still metabolizing, which, as you know better than me, are biological definitions of life.
Correct.
But this is off the topic, but I think it's cruel how sometimes they extend the life of very sick, feeble people. But would you agree? It's horrible. I've been in a lot of nursing homes.
Oh yeah, and personally, if I was in that situation, I just would rather die than not have to suffer. But again, I digress. That's a different discussion for a different time.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I was terminally ill, I would like to have the option of ending my own life when I want to, rather than waiting for the inevitable and degenerating and all that. But I digress.
I'm a devout Christian, but I agree that if it's completely hopeless and there's nothing but pain, let them go.
Yeah, and we have no problem euthanizing a dog that's in pain and there's nothing you can do for him. And if we have that amount of mercy for an animal, then why shouldn't that mercy extend to humans? But that's a completely different debate, completely different topic.
Yes, it is. Well, I wouldn't debate you on that one.
Well, I could jump in here, guys, since that might be a cordial place to, or a good place to end it. And because I've got a lot of good questions, super chats here. Doki Doki wins the award for most super stickers. Once again, thank you, Doki Doki. But yeah, we got some good questions, some good super chats. Therefore, if you guys are okay with moving into 5-minute closing statements, we can do so. Wrap up your points, address anything you feel like you may have missed or want to still address, and then we'll move into the Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, pleasure to talk and meet with you. And anyone listening to this discussion, you will learn more in life by listening to someone who disagrees with you. And we should always treat everybody with respect. Some people treat disagreement like it's an attack on their dignity and their life. Just enjoy life, enjoy everybody, and share ideas. Amen?
Amen to that.
Okay. And I do mean that sincerely. We need more love on this planet. All right, my closing, SFT, can you see that beautiful slide?
Yes, yes, I can. Looks good, Bill.
It's perfect. You see those two shades of yellow? I'm just kidding. All right, here comes my closing. Ready? Here we go. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? One of my favorite questions to ask people. Some people say chicken, some people say egg. I believe they're both wrong. You need two chickens. You need a male and you need a female for the origins. I believe they had to be adult. Youngsters are helpless. They can't even feed themselves. I believe they had to have the right food, the right temperature, the right amount of water, the right amount of humidity, the right amount of gravity. It is a miracle to believe in the Garden of Eden, but I believe it takes much less faith than to believe every atom of that chicken, all of their food, gravity happened by time, nature, and chance. Now, if you think humans have bacterium ancestors, ask yourself, have you really seen evidence for it? Or have you just been told that there's evidence for it? Or do you want to believe that? I say question authority. Skeptics out there, question your Christian buddies. Christians, question the skeptics. Seek truth. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm glad I questioned the theory of evolution and came to the conclusions that I have now, but I still question it. I got a lot of questions about the Bible. Keep questioning. In the schools in the United States, anybody can be questioned except Charles Darwin. I think that's a shame. Everybody should be dissected, interrogated, and tested, but your career could be trash if any teacher were to even question Charles Darwin. Why do I believe a designer exists? Design. If we took 100,000 smart people from New Guinea, took them to Mount Rushmore and said, Do you think that happened by erosion, nature, chance, lightning, and earthquakes, or intelligent design? They'd all say intelligent design. And then they get admitted to Johns Hopkins University, and the professor says the human face is the result of time, nature, and chance. What a tragedy. That's a design. That's a design. But I believe there's repercussions to believe in the human as a design and consequences, that there's a God. We talked about this. That's obviously the result of chance, but you can't be sure because you weren't there. That's more likely the result of design, little bit of faith, hardly any faith to believe that's the result of design. And again, I know I'm repeating the slide. The eye, absolutely a fantastic, beautiful design by a brilliant God with an IQ of infinity. True or false? Your dog can see better than you in the dark. It's true. Behind their retinas, they have a mirror. It's called a tapetum. The light goes through the retina, bounces off that mirror and out. I think it's really cool that the predators have this, but the prey do not. Beautiful designs by a beautiful God. The big conclusion, why is the theory of evolution not scientific? It's not been observed. David is extremely intelligent, extremely polite, but he read a lot of articles, told a lot of stories, showed a lot of drawings. I didn't see anything in nature to support his advice and position. No living evidence, no fossil evidence. This is really complex. Bees make bees, fleas make fleas, peas make peas, trees make trees. Question: are you going to go through life believing drawings and words, or are you going to believe your eyes? There once was a man in a small town in Indiana who was convinced he was dead. They collected a bunch of money. They got a smart guy from Harvard to come out to talk to him. The smart guy said, "Are you dead?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm dead." "Do dead people bleed?" He goes, "No, dead people don't bleed." The smart guy from Harvard got out a pin, pricked him. He started bleeding. He said, "I was wrong. I do bleed. I mean, dead people do bleed. I ruined it. Dead people do bleed." Some people's minds are made up on the conclusion. Be open-minded. Follow the evidence. Don't follow your hypothesis. I say this with respect. I've talked to thousands of people. The main reason people are atheists, some people have suffered a horrible youth, terrible parents, terrible background, terrible experience with religion. They're bitter, they're angry at God, and they're fighting him. My heart breaks for these people. Some people don't like the rules of the Bible. It's called the flesh. So they deny that there is a God and there aren't any rules. Some people think they're too intelligent to answer to anybody. It's called pride. Some people give in because of peer pressure. They don't want to be criticized. That happens a lot. And my heart really breaks for the people who sincerely believe it's true and they're defending what they love, science. That was me. I truly believed it was true. So ask yourself, is your goal truth? Or is your goal trying to prove what you want to be true? Is that a design? The eye, the optic nerve, the visual cortex is a design. It's a system, and I believe it's designed by the greatest designer of all, the God of the Bible. And my 5 minutes is up.
Okay, thank you for that concluding statement there, Bill. We've got David. You've got your concluding statement as well. Go ahead whenever you're ready, and then we'll get into some questions.
Excellent. I'll start right as soon as you take that off.
Oh,
There we go. Oh, cute little puppy. All right. So anyway, I want to thank Bill Morgan for his cordiality, and I've really enjoyed this discussion, and I can't wait to have more discussions with Bill Morgan. Once again, thank you, Standing for Truth, for moderating. This debate comes down to the question: evolution or creation? What is a better explanation? The explanation of what? The explanation of, the better explanation of biodiversity. I have went through the scientific method and showed how the theory of evolution fits with science. I have shown the core predictions that evolution makes. All of them have been confirmed. Speciation happens. As far as the open discussion, most of it has very little to do with evolution itself, which is a theory of biodiversity. I really enjoyed the open discussion, but it was mostly not related to evolution at all. I showed evidence of how scales became feathers. I think I gave pretty good evidence on the evolution of the eye. And I also think I gave pretty good solid evidence on macroevolution in both HIV and in the lizard population, and is currently evolving the ability to have a placenta. So again, I don't think these, I respectfully say I don't think that these objections were answered. And I want to say thank you once again, and I hope everyone comes to my after show. So with that, I yield the mic. I'm ready for Q&A.
Awesome. Great debate, guys. Really enjoyable. I really enjoyed that format, actually. We should do that format more often. And the chat has been lively. So everybody's been enjoying. We got some good questions here. And let me go find the first one. Okay, here we go. So first question is from George. And what's good about these questions is we've got a good number for Bill and a good number for you, David. So it should be fun. George Bond, question for Neff. That is David Neff. If Luca, last universal common ancestor, gave rise to the bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes, what was this Luca?
Well, it would not have been either of the domains, and I'm not sure right off the top of my head. There have been many papers on that. Go to the peer-reviewed literature and read all about it.
Okay, thank you. I'll say that. Yeah, of course. If you guys want to say something, after the questioner, like let's say David answers his question, go ahead. You can have a little back and forth. So, Bill, the floor is yours.
But I heard someone moaning. Was that you?
You okay, David?
I thought I heard a moan. The movie Big, my favorite line by Tom Hanks was everybody was talking about this toy, and he just simply said, I don't get it. I don't get it. How people believe whales, camels, giraffes, pine trees are descendants of bacteria. It's just complete fantasy, I think, to replace how we got here. What is a better explanation of how we got here than with the God who designed camels, giraffes, pine trees with the genetics to only make after their kind, which we observe billions and billions of times every day. So I don't get it. And I listen to evolutionists. I don't get it. I think they have more faith, and that's misdirected faith.
And David, since it's your question, as always, you get the last word there.
Nope, just move on to the next question.
Okay, so here's a good question. Question for both from Martian Moon Rising. Thanks for the good question. Question is, can you falsify each other's position? Thanks. We can start with whoever wants to start.
So I guess that means I don't quite understand what that means. How would I falsify evolution? Well, I would falsify.
I think because he said, can you falsify each other's position? Maybe he wants you to falsify creation. Bill falsifies evolution.
Yeah, well, we've already been that was the whole purpose of this debate, I think. So I guess I'm just going to interpret it. What would actually falsify evolution for me? Well, I presented 4 of the core predictions of evolution. If any one of those predictions were shown to be false, then evolution would be falsified. And if we find a fossilized rabbit in the Precambrian, that would also falsify evolution. So I hope that answers the question.
And thank you, David. Bill, floor is yours.
Okay, I would say you can never falsify anything that you think happened in the past. I could never falsify atheism, but I think I could present a case to make it the overwhelmingly less good explanation. You could come home, Martian man, and see 600,000 stones on your driveway saying Martians rule. That still doesn't prove there's a designer, but the amount of faith required gets less and less. The law of biogenesis and the cell theory teach life only comes from life. That could possibly be falsified, but with all the trillions of birth, the trillions of observations, we haven't seen it to be. So to answer the Martian man's question, you could never 100% falsify something in the past, but you sure can get to close to 100, in my opinion.
Okay, great responses from the both of you. Thank you so much. Good question as well from the Martian Man. I like that, Bill. Okay, so let me pick another question here. So, question from Andrew. Andrew Cumming. Question for Bill. He's coming at you, Bill. Does the fact that I may not know anything about how chairs are built in the garage disprove the fact that chairs work?
I honestly don't understand the question. What about
I'm
you,
not
Bill?
sure. I'm just
Wait,
reading
no.
it word for word.
It's either genius or nonsensical. I'm going to try to figure it out. Could you read it again?
Yeah. So let's see. Does the fact that I may not know anything about how chairs are built in the garage disprove the fact that chairs work?
Well, let me ask you guys this. What percent of young men today can even open the hood of a car?
A very low percent.
Yeah,
Question, what's the hood of a car?
exactly.
If Andrew, Andrew, if you're out there, my
But
good
my
man,
point
if
is,
you want to,
I would say, Andrew, chairs are best described as being a design. I don't know if this answers it, but a fun question. Suppose all of us were hiking in Central America and we found a huge pyramid that nobody knew anything about. Would any of the three of us argue it happened by chance?
No. But again,
No.
but then again, I would say chance would still be far more likely than aliens from a distant galaxy coming down and putting everything together and then leaving back to their distant galaxy without a trace. What
But a
about you, Bill?
designer would be the best guess. We would start arguing who designed it, who built it. Crop
Right.
circles. Nobody argued that crop circles in England happened by chance. They all tried to figure out how they got there. And a crop circle is a lot less complex than the human eye and brain and kidney. So it's really not open to, shouldn't be open to debate. It's just who is the designer is the debate.
okay,
in my
perfect.
opinion.
Perfect, guys. Let's get to the next question. So we've got a super chat from Sigifredo Sarabia. $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Question is for David. Would you agree all humans are apes, but not all apes are human? If apes are humans by definition, why distinguish clades if really it's not all apes are apes? Question mark.
So it kind of likes going back to basic geometry. All squares are quadrilateral, and all squares are but not all quadrilaterals are squares. Kind of like the same thing. So you could say all X are Y, but not all Y are X.
Okay, and Bill, did you have a response at all?
Yeah, I was talking to an ape the other day and I said, hey, buddy, I'm an ape too. And he said, we don't want to be part of you. We don't abort our young. We don't do wars. We don't do drive-by shootings. Don't associate yourself with us. They want us as part of them, David.
Okay, yeah, but so next question.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I just always want whoever first got the question gets the last words. Okay, so next question here. Sigifredo Sarabia has got a question now for Bill. So here we go. $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Mr. Morgan, would you say mutagens are designed? If yes, can you name something in nature that's not designed? If no, what keeps it from design against a dog?
Beautiful question. Well, first, I would be guessing if I said what a mutagen was. Secondly, do I get the $5?
I'm going to transfer it to your bank account right away, Bill.
Let me bring my dog. This part is serious. My dog is constantly studied by my family. And I said to my son, can you see anything on this dog that's not a design? And he said, this mole on her elbow. She's got a little mole there. And I'm not a genetics expert or biochemistry, but I would say that little mole is because of mutation or an error that occurred, maybe a hair follicle or who knows what. So I do believe that this is a planet of death and extinction. It is a planet of pain and suffering, a lot of it. This is not a planet of evolution and increasing information in the planet. We're subjected to entropy. So I do believe that there is a death gene, and that bad things happen, that the genome is failing. It's people are more mutant each generation, genetic entropy, which I know SFT knows a million times more than me. So I do not know if I'm answering the Super Chatter's question, but I do believe that this planet is cursed and temporary for us, that sadly we're all going to die, and our choices are to be bitter about it or humble about it, but it's a fact, and that we're all on death's row. Now, we're not to be morose, but how are you going to deal with it is really life's question.
Awesome. Thanks for the response, Bill. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Can you repeat the question?
Let me go find it. Okay, so question was for Bill. Would you say mutagens are designed? If yes, can you name something in nature that's not designed? If no, what keeps it from design against a dog?
Sure. So I guess geologically speaking, the Grand Canyon is a result of natural processes and not an intelligent designer, so with a lot of caverns and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that is what he is getting at, but those are some things I can think of right off the top of my head. Again, I'm not quite sure if that answers his question or not.
No problem. No problem. Bill, you get the last word.
Well, with my dog, I see thousands and thousands of well-functioning designs, except for that big old thing on her elbow, and I don't know if that's a mutagen by definition, but I would say that something harmful happened for that to happen. But the design part of her is functioning fantastically. Millions of blessings in her life, except for that elbow thing. But SFT, what is a mutagen? Do you know?
So a mutagen would be basically any mutation. So basically all of us are genetically modified organisms. So basically we're all basically mutagens, from what I understand.
The whole body's a mutagen, it would be called?
Technically speaking, yes.
Well, for example, smoking tobacco could be a mutagen because it could lead to mutations in your somatic cell.
I'm looking at. I was thinking of a different word, mutagen. Yeah. So like
pollution. It's something that can result in the mutation.
I was thinking of a different word, but yeah, mutagen. The sun itself is a mutagen, causing skin cancer. That's quite the intelligent design.
I agree. The sun is a beautiful design. It's the right mass, the right distance, the right amount of energy. So I agree with you. It is a good design.
Except when it gives us cancer and kills us in 5 billion years.
I'm not going to last that long. I don't want to.
Well, you guys are keeping this fun. You guys are keeping this Q&A engaging. Let's go to another one from our top super chatter, Sigifredo Sarabia. All right. $5 super chat. This one's actually for both. So here we go. Would phylogenetic relationships prove either wrong that life, living organisms, and non-life, extinct organisms, can create new information? Or is this fake news?
I don't understand the question, but as far as new information, I think I gave a good example tonight of HIV acquiring the new mutation, new information. But again, I don't quite understand the question.
It sounds like, would phylogenetic relationships prove either wrong that life, I think it could be worded a little better, that life and non-life can create, so that maybe just looking at the phylogenetics of different animals, just looking at that, can we demonstrate new information or not? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I'm not the expert, but I've heard speakers talk about the increased mutation rate in every generation. So we're on the downhill path of entropy and decay, loss of available energy. So time is not our best friend. The sun is not our best friend.
No, it is not, which is quite, ironic from an intelligent designer. I would have created a whole different solar system. I would have created a sun that wouldn't give us cancer, and I would create asteroids that would not crash into us and causing mass extinction and stuff like that. So that's how I would design it anyway.
David, would you believe in a God if he did things your way?
I don't know, but like I think if we were to see stuff, a cosmology similar to what the ancient Israelites had, I think that would be pretty solid evidence.
Oh man, could you just jot down a Bible verse, David? And I'm not trying to embarrass you.
Yeah.
John 10:24.
John 10:24.
It's a verse, one of my favorites. The Jewish leaders are blaming Jesus for their non-belief. I need more evidence, they're saying. And I love that. That is so human. And again, I have a heart for everybody. A lot of people say, I need more evidence. Well, how much more do you need? Digestion is such an amazing process. You cut yourself, you heal. You break a bone, it heals. Babies, I think there's plenty of evidence that we don't need much more than just to open our eyes with an open mind.
Okay, well, I've got, and once again, great responses from the both of you. Here's a good question from In Whom We Have Redemption Through His Blood. So,
an atheist, huh?
Yeah. So here we go. Question for evolutionists. So I believe that's you, right, David?
Yes.
The fruit fly experiments demonstrate the ineffectiveness of mutations as a driving force for evolution. So why is the public taught otherwise? Go ahead, David.
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. So question for David. The fruit fly experiments demonstrate the ineffectiveness of mutations as a driving force for evolution. So therefore, why is the public taught otherwise?
Which fruit fly experiment is he talking about? There's like dozens of them, so I don't know exactly which one he's talking about. That being said, there are of course many other mechanisms of evolution. I already gave some examples tonight of macroevolution and an evolution of new organisms and stuff like that, and new functions and new features that didn't exist in the past. So again, if that doesn't count, I don't know what does.
Okay, thanks for the response. Bill, of course, if you had anything to say, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I don't know if they had PETA back then, people for the ethical treatment of fruit flies. They tortured many, many generations of fruit flies with radiation, and they had 4 wings, no eyes, no legs. They just brutalized them with mutations many, many, many times. And it demonstrated that you got to be specific, that in this experiment, the mutations did not benefit any of these fruit flies. It harmed them. I think some people are never going to give up their evolution dream. I say this with respect. I believe there are many, many people that are enraged at God, people like Dawkins and Krauss. They're never going to change their mind. And they will teach it, and they'll just do it over and over. My opinion, they have every right to believe whatever they want. But the thing that bothers me is when they teach innocent people, hey, look, buddy, like Dobzhansky, this is the foundation of biology. What's a student going to say? Wow, I guess it is. He's the expert. But if they were to even begin to teach both sides, a lot of passionate atheists would just have a fit. If they would say these experiments did not prove the hypothesis, they could get fired, censored, etc. So I think for the hardcore atheists, they want to hold on to this dream that there is no God, and they're desperately looking for a solution. I love to meet the open-minded people, say, you decide for yourself. 8 billion humans, all they're making is humans. 1 million apes, all they're making is apes. No transitional forms. Oh, excuse me. Actually, that wasn't me. Excuse me.
All right. So
I didn't know. Praise that I am was here. But
yeah,
There should be living transitional forms all over the place, but they're only in stories and in drawings.
Sure. So, again, that's something we should have more of a discussion on. There are plenty of transition species. One of my favorites is Tiktaalik, which was actually predicted to be exactly where it was. You don't get more scientific than that. I predict we will find this in this particular layer, and there we go. We find it. Trying to think.
Have you seen the picture of Tiktaalik?
Yes, I have.
And
But,
you really get confidence that that's a transitional form?
yeah. But that's a topic. We can have a.
It's a beat up old jalopy of a fossil.
Yeah, I think we should do a part 2 of this debate. Maybe.
Sure. Yeah, no, that sounds good. Let's get to this super chat. $10 came in from Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare. What an honor. So,
Wow.
Super chat is, I'll read it word for word. There may be a question in here somewhere. The view that some people have about life being meaningless simply because they are sacks of matter is quite frankly depressing to me. Meaning is not inherent to you. It is something you must find. Did you guys have any thoughts or anything you wanted to respond to that with?
Yeah. And again, that's what I mean, that there's no objective standard. There's no objective meaning of life. And by objective, I mean something that a purpose that exists that is true for every single person. So again, there is no objective purpose in life. And I want to hear Bill Morgan's understanding. What do you think is the purpose in life?
3 things: love God, love other people, and go to heaven. I believe, and I say this with compassion, David, if God exists, and I'm certain there is a God, and we can debate on who the God is. I'm Christian. I understand objections to the Bible and objections to who God is. But if God exists, and this is our only existence, I would say he is a sadist. He is cruel. He is mean. There's so much starvation, so much hunger, war, so many bad parents out there. And I don't know about anybody else's upbringing. I was blessed with good parents. But this is it. I believe this is a temporary existence. And a loving God offers life after this to those who seek him and treat him as Lord, to those who can love him on the sunny days and on the rainy days, because that's what love is, not what you can get out of it because of the relationship. And I'm not setting you up, but David, I can give you 2 facts that proves that God loves you. Your eyes. No human, David, will give you a better gift than your eyes. And I could list more gifts. Your ears, your brain. You've been gifted with an incredibly gifted brain. Life is about thanking the gift giver. And it's a beautiful way to go through life in this life and to get through this life of pain and suffering for the life of peace and eternity and joy with him. So that's what I believe the purpose of life is.
Yeah.
And I love your question, Athena.
So a real quick response to that about the eyes. I would say I have 2400 vision, so I don't see any good design in that. So again, there's a lot of things that I would have done differently if I were God and if I were the designer.
Would a blind billionaire pay $1 million for your eyes, David?
Probably. But but I also would pay $1 million for a division of a hawk.
Absolutely. But that's human. I believe one of the secrets of life is to be content and thankful instead of covetous and wishful. Everybody listening, you don't need a younger wife, a bigger car, more. You don't need to be a multimillionaire. Be content with what you have. Be thankful for what you have. David, I'm so glad you have vision. If I were God, I'd give you 20/20, but be thankful for what you do have. And there's a lot to be thankful for, my friend.
Well, this goes into 2 follow-up super chats from Athena. So Athena, thanks so much. A $2 one and another $2 one. So Athena says, God gifted me with albinism. Yay. And how do you explain Athena being born with that specific condition?
Is David going to answer that or me?
I guess you.
whatever
start.
one of you.
Athena, one of my best friends in grammar school was named David Garrison. He had two brothers and himself were albinos. And if I don't know if I'll be theological, if I only preached, life is awesome, everybody's awesome, life is so good all the time, I would be lying. Earlier, when I asked David about the kid who was depressed with bad parents, etc., I'd like to politely ask atheists that question. I asked a prominent atheist about what would you tell a teenager who's got lousy parents, he's living on a couch, and he hates his life. The guy told me, and I won't name names, he said, oh, it'll get better. I said, you liar, you don't know that. It could get worse. The kid could get cancer tomorrow. So Athena, I respect that you have it, and I'm sorry that you do, but I hope you can still choose to be thankful. You could say, God, thankful for my fingers. Thank you for my ankles. Thank you for my knees. Thank you for my liver. Thank you for my spine. Athena, you still got a million things to be thankful for despite the trials. And some people have more than others, but everybody has trials. But my hope, Athena, when you, and this is for everybody, when you get the blues, when life does kick you in the shins, and life will kick you in the shins, call a little time out and thank God for 5 things. I go witnessing, I talk to teenagers that are suicidal. Some of the kids are the most coolest looking, happiest kids in the world. They're considering suicide. I say, take a time out. And those of you who want to listen along, repeat this after me. Dear God, thank you for my eyes. Thank you for my ears. Thank you for my arms. Thank you for my legs. Thank you for my heart. Thank you for my ribs. We all can dwell on what we don't have, but life will be long and dreadful. Rejoice in what you do have. And I address that to you, Athena. And Athena, my phone number was at the beginning of the debate. I would talk to you for 2 hours about life if you want, because you are important and you are loved. And Athena, if you read the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5 through 7, I get choked up. You will see the blessings that God pours out for those who persevere, who endure, who seek peace, who seek righteousness. So Athena, please read Matthew 5 through 7, and those words are for you. And we all need encouragement. You're not a weak person for being mad about your trials, but iron sharpens iron. I would love to support you and have you enjoy this life, knowing this is temporary and that eternity awaits. And you are loved, Athena. You are important. Call me. And I'm not hitting on you. I'm an old married guy. But you are important. You are loved.
Next question.
Okay, great response, Bill. Thank you guys so much for making this a good Q&A. I'm going to go with one last question because we're going on 2 hours and 10 minutes. You guys must be getting tired, and I want to thank you again for Bill shaking his head. Nope.
I got my nap.
Yeah, you still got another 2 hours in you, don't you?
I had my nap too.
Yeah.
Well,
Bill, if you want,
go ahead, David.
I said, Bill, if you want, let's just come to my after show and we can continue the discussion.
I was just going to say,
well, I think Neff has one, and Neff will beat the heck out of me if I don't. Have you ever seen that guy?
You don't mess with Neff. Neff 1 or Neff 2.
We should make a t-shirt, Neff 1 and Neff 2.
Neff 1, yeah, the front Neff 1, the back Neff 2. Okay, well, I'll choose this question as the last one from CRISPR-Cas9. I think this is referring to a portion of your opening statement, Bill. So CRISPR asks, could the first pile of stones be designed?
Yes, absolutely. Nobody was there. And that's why I say in history, you cannot absolutely prove anything, but you sure can come up with a better explanation. And I love history. If anybody wants to debate history, SFT, I would love to pick a topic on that. But yeah, they could have been designed.
Yeah. How
But
about I have a couple history topics I'd be interested in debating. You know, how about a couple of topics on the resurrection of Jesus, the historical reliability of the Gospels, or any of those things?
why not? Let's go.
Yeah, sure. So let's set up a date and time, and we can private email each other and set up a date.
Well, I'd like to say one thing about the resurrection. And
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead, bro.
everybody on the planet would agree with what I'm about to say, because I'm a peacemaker. Okay. The resurrection was either the world's greatest historical event or the world's biggest scam. It's either A or B. Would you agree, David?
Not necessarily.
What's a bigger scam if it's not true?
Well, the Book of Mormon, the Quran, all of the other scams. Like pretty much, I think all religions are scams. But they're all pyramid schemes. Where the
Okay, Bible trivia question. Ready? And it's not to put you on the spot. Did Jesus ever yell and scream at people?
yes, of course he did.
Who did he yell and scream at?
The Pharisees. He after all, he started a riot. My favorite story in Jesus, where he went over to the crooked bankers and flipped up the tables and took a whip and whipped them out.
David, you're just like Jesus. You both hate religious phonies. So keep it up. Don't go for the religious phoniness. Just go for that relationship. And I'm with you. Religion can kill a great relationship. Don't let it happen to anybody.
Okay, so with that, I want to
well-
invite everyone over to my after show.
I feel bad because you know what? If I ask this next question, I think I just looked through all the questions I have saved. This would actually complete every single question that came in. So why don't we? So real quick, this one's from Smitty 121981.
I know him.
Yeah. So question for Bill. I'm just going to read it word for word. Why he doesn't take into the consideration the evolution, all human technology, and all the ways in which this mirrors God's creation in the fossil record.
Beautiful. Because machinery is not living. I like to say this. Oh, I just heard lightning. Did you hear that? Okay. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. I like to stand near people in church and say, I'm going to say something. So if I get hit by lightning, you're going to get fried too. God himself could not have created through evolution. And people go, ooh, blasphemer, you're limiting God. Well, if God created through evolution, did he create brains on Monday, stomachs on Tuesday, lungs on Wednesday, the blood vessels on a Thursday? No, living systems have to be instantly created. Everything. What part of the cell did God create first if he used evolution? What part of the atom? What part of the molecule? What part of the heart? What part of the circulatory system? The only way for a living organism to be here is instant creation with all the systems that support each other in place. So SFT's supernova car, you can take your time in modifying it. It's not a living thing, but you can't do that with a living organism. Instant creation. And then for us mammals and reptiles, we need a female. Instantly created, not through a slow, gradual process. And Smitty, I do know a Smitty. He introduced me to Wingstop, so I'm indebted. Good question, though, Smitty.
Great question there, Smitty. And did you have a response to that there, David? Oh, David, you're on mute. I apologize.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was mute. No response to that, but once again, thank you, Standing, and thank you, Bill. The time really flew by. So yeah, all the way
Actually,
went to my after show.
I did forget this one from Brother Caleb, and I apologize, Caleb. So I noticed this super chat came in pretty well at the start of the debate. So here we go. So here's a question, and then we're going to end it with this. And this one, I think, is a good way to end it, something lighthearted. I want to know what the evolutionary purpose of beards is.
Beards?
I
It's obvious.
think that's what provoked him to ask that question, Bill.
Chicks
You're-
love
you're-
the beard.
You're rocking a cool one. I've been growing one for 32 years.
Really? Well, it keeps your face warm when you're out there hunting and gathering, right?
There you go. That's true. That's true. David, what's the evolutionary purpose of beards? Go ahead.
I'm guessing for warmth, or for protection from other things or whatever. Just guessing right off the top of my head.
Oh, so women can't go outside. Oh, okay. Just kidding,
Or maybe,
David. In the kitchen, right, David? Just kidding.
or maybe the ladies like the beards, and so the beards were selected. Ladies like beards.
You're a good man, David.
All right, guys, this was fun. This was fun. Almost 2.5 hours, and time has flown by. As always, you guys make for a good discussion, good debate, good back and forth. So thanks to the audience for so many good questions, comments, feedback. Thank you for the super chats and super stickers. You guys are putting my kids through college. But seriously, you guys are the life and blood of this channel, and the audience, you guys are the reason why we can get so many good debates, discussions, and interviews. And of course, without the debaters, if you guys weren't so generous with your time, we wouldn't have a debate to have and enjoy. So I want to thank you guys again for giving us your time for this important debate.
Keep the zeal going, standing for truth, and nice debating you, David.
Yeah, definitely. And come on over to my after show, everyone. Go over, and we're going to be starting just a couple of minutes.
Oh, you're having an after show?
Yeah, come on
I'm
over.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. You only said it 6 times. That's a
Neff
joke.
1 and Neff 2 are both having after shows, guys. So
Yeah.
go on over, check out the after shows. Should be fun. Should be a wild Friday night. Let the party begin. SFT is out. God bless everybody.
Wait, how do I find Neff's after show?
Hold on, I will link it to you. And
Oh, the other guy.
the other guy, definitely free.
Old Neff.